The war on ROMs. Nintendo's erasing its history. Well, they're not erasing it. You just have to go to the vintage store and buy it for $330 used.
In the summer of 2018, the best-selling console in June of that year wasn't the Nintendo Switch or the Sony PlayStation 4, it was the NES Classic, a miniature...
I was there, Gandalf. I was there 3,000 years ago when me and my friend Eric stood in line to buy this. Every single other person at 8 in the morning at the GameStop that we went to buy, it's right over there behind me. Every single one of them was 30 years old. And you could see half of them, it was a rainy day too. And like half of them had like their wives or girlfriends in the car, like. Meanwhile, the guy was in there talking to the other guys like, oh yeah, dude, so you're gonna play this one? You remember this game? Bro, I used to be so good at this one. Oh god, this is gonna be so good. Yeah, it was so fucking funny. I was there. It was awesome. In the 40s or 50s
version
now?
of the
Almost.
NES that cost $60 and came with 30 classic NES titles. And it sold well. So well
actually, I had the
that
Super Nintendo one.
underestimated the demand. The NES Classic was frequently sold out, and resellers took advantage of the FOMO from those who weren't able to get one. The NES Classic underneath the covers is nothing more than a low-powered ARM device that runs an in-house Nintendo...
Which, by the way, this is what we all want. Nintendo, if you're listening, we want this. We want you to sell us nostalgia boxes that have all the games that we grew up playing. We want to give you money. We want to do this. Like last time you asked for money for this, we gave it to you. Let us do it again. Stop making us buy a fucking Game Boy Advance game for $170. Nobody's gonna do it. We're gonna fucking pirate it. That's just what's gonna happen. And you get mad about it, go ahead. But like, if you sell it to us for $30, well, I'll give you $30. It's better than zero, right? Come on. What are you doing?
Emulator and ROMs. Nintendo would follow this up with the Super NES Classic, which was just as successful. And just like any other mini console at the time,
I'll go get it. Yeah, I was talking to Eric the other day, and man, bro, like, it's right here. We bought this on the day it came out. We got the box. He knows where it is. Of course I do. It's got all the games, everything like that. Yep. Ah, there it is. Yep. Have you played it? I did. I played it. We went over to his house. I even recorded the whole day that we had together. Like him picking me up, us driving over there. We hung out at his house all day. We played the games. I recorded the whole thing. I just never put it on YouTube.
It would be quickly hacked to run just about any emulator and ROM that you wanted. In July 18 of the same year as the NES Classic, Nintendo would file a lawsuit against the operator of a popular console ROM site known as LoveRoms.com. According to Nintendo, the sites are among the most notorious online hubs for pirated games. And just 3 days later...
Wouldn't be the case if you let us buy them. Just let us buy them, Nintendo. Come on.
LoveRoms was shut down. ME Paradise, out of fear of being targeted by Nintendo, also ceased providing ROMs on their website.
I think this is a Gabe situation where he was totally right about piracy being a service issue. Steam provides such a great service with like the cloud storage that I want to use Steam and I appreciate Steam. Spotify got me to stop pirating music because it just provides a much better service that's more reliable. Nintendo. All I want is I want to be able to buy the games for a small fee, especially the old games, or buy them in a bundle or something like that, and then be able to access them or download them locally to a Game Boy, a Nintendo Switch, or a home console. That's all I want. If you do that, everybody will give you money. Problem solved. It's literally, I want that for the cloud storage. I don't want to have to play a ROM because like there could be problems with it or something like that. I want the Nintendo quality and I would pay money for that. And I can't do it. It's so stupid. Cloud storage?
July of 2019, Nintendo went scorched earth, on another popular ROM sharing site known as ROM
like
Universe.
Nintendo hates their customers?
Stating the
There's a
company
communication
alleges
problem.
ROM Universe is built largely on brazen and mass-scale infringement. It was shut down shortly after.
That's true. I think that a lot of people use ROMs to copyright infringe the games. That's true, but also like think about why that's happening. That's happening because people want to play them. So figure out a way to get people to play them. Because like really, like if you're buying a one of these old games from like a vintage shop, Nintendo doesn't make any of that money. The shop does. So like Nintendo's not really losing out on a sale because they're not providing the product to be sold in the first place.
And fast forward to today, Vim's Lair is the latest in a string of high-profile ROM sites that have been a target of Nintendo and their quest to eradicate illegal ROMs and piracy. In the case of Vim's Lair, Nintendo, along with Sega, Lego, and a group of companies who formed the ESA, was responsible.
Yeah.
Now, I do want to be very clear that Nintendo does have
every
every right to protect what's theirs, and ROM sites do indeed host.
Well, there's two different things. Does Nintendo have the right to do it? The answer is yes. Would it be better if Nintendo could see the perspective of customers and figure out why it's happening and provide an alternative that we could pay for as well? Yes. So it's like, yes, I understand Nintendo has to do this, but I wish Nintendo understood why people are doing it. Because if they solve it's like you're solving a symptom and not the disease. The disease is the fact that there's no distribution for these games that's good. The symptom is piracy. Piracy would go down by like 90%, even from where it's at now, if you could just buy them and play them on a cloud device or on your Nintendo Switch and have a Nintendo account the same as Steam. Like, I would immediately swap over to that.
ROMs. But it's in my opinion that Nintendo is causing irreparable damage to a community that's almost single-handedly kept game preservation efforts alive for decades. And we're going to talk about why I'm genuinely concerned about the future of video game preservation after a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by Delete Me. As someone who works in the video game industry and as a known public figure, maintaining my privacy is extremely important. And sometimes I feel like I'm fighting a losing battle. Last year, I got an email from what appeared to be a YouTube representative. Now, being tech savvy, I knew that this was a scam.
Yeah.
But what I didn't really understand at the time was how these scammers were able to get my information so easily. Well, it's all thanks to data brokers. And these are large corporations that collect huge amounts of your personal identifiable information and package it all together. And these data brokers will also sell your data to other data brokers. And there are literally hundreds, maybe thousands of these sites.
Never give anyone your phone number. Never.
On the internet. Now,
that's how they do it.
You have the right to stay private and protect your personal data. And that's where Delete Me
or
comes
email.
in. It's an online subscription service
Never
that
sign
will
up for
scrub the
anything.
internet for you and remove your personal data from hundreds of these data broker websites. Now, I've been using the service for the past few weeks, and so far, I'm really happy with the results. Now,
the hot girl is just baiting you for you to meet her somewhere, and then she's going to drug you, and they're going to steal your organs.
Once you've signed up for the service, Delete Me experts will find your personal information online and
what
remove
happens.
it from over 750 data brokers. The first report you'll receive after 7 days of using the service. And this is mine. Check this out. This isn't altered in any way. These are all the data broker sites that my information was found on. Now, as you can see going down this list, some of them have removal requests
fat people search,
while others have already been removed. And Delete Me doesn't stop there either. They will regularly remove your personal information at a scheduled basis and keep you informed. Not only this, you can also make custom removal requests as well. Now, I'm a Delete Me customer, and I recommend it to anyone who wants to try it out for themselves. There are even family plans available for those who want to protect the privacy of their entire family. So what are you waiting for? Get 20% off Delete Me US customer plans when you go to joindeleteme.com/MVG and use promo code MVG at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/MVG, code MVG at checkout. Nintendo has a well-documented stance against emulation and ROMs. In 1999, when
They have a well-documented stance against their community.
HLE, the first public Nintendo 64 emulator release,
let's be honest,
they called emulation illegal. But after it was tried in court and emulators were found to actually be legal, Nintendo changed their strategy. If they can't take down the emulators, then why not go after the sites that host the ROMs? Now you might be thinking to yourself, MVG, Nintendo just took down Yuzu. That's an emulator, so what are you talking about? Nintendo did shut down Yuzu. However, the DMCA law was never tried in court. Yuzu took an L to keep emulation legal, which I think everyone
they took an L because they knew that they were acting in bad faith. They were monetizing a hack of Tears of the Kingdom, and they were doing it, and you could only get it through their Patreon. They knew that if they went to court, they would lose, like, they put a few zeros behind that number. That's why they lost.
Agree was the right thing to do. But let's
they
get
knew
back
what they
to
were
ROMs,
doing.
which
Absolutely.
is the main topic of this video. I mentioned that Nintendo has every right as the copyright holder to remove what belongs to them. But did you notice that Nintendo is pushing for the removal of the entire sites, threatening the preservation of ROMs that don't even belong to them? But MVG, what about archive.org, I hear you ask? That's never going to go away. Let's stop and discuss archive.org for a moment. And while I do agree that with the loss of Love ROMs, Vimslayer, and other sites, as long as archive.org exists, then everything will be fine. But it's really not the case. First of all, let's talk about why Nintendo hasn't gone after archive.org in the same way as they have with the other sites. Well, it's because archive.org has a DMCA exemption to help with the archival of vintage software. It's vital to make proper archival copies of these artifacts. The problem with this exemption is it's not forever. Every 3 years, the Copyright Office holds a rule-making proceeding to determine the exemption status. And for example, if 1 year they rule against the DMCA exemption, the site is then exposed to the same takedowns as any other ROM site.
And I want you guys to keep in mind that the reason why this is happening, Nintendo isn't doing this. The government is doing it. It would be great if we had laws that actually gave consumers legitimate rights to products that they purchase. But it's the government that's actually doing this. Nintendo doesn't shut down the website, the government does.
Simple as that. Nothing lasts forever, except for the ridiculous copyright laws when it comes to video games. And if you didn't know, here in the United States, video game copyright lasts for the entire life of the creator,
I don't know what it
plus
was.
an additional 70 years. And Nintendo themselves have been outspoken opposing the DMCA exemption on archive.org. If and when there is a reversal of the DMCA exemption, Nintendo will be the first company to strike.
Yeah.
So what can we do about this? ROM sites are illegal, but can we dump our own games? Is it even legal to do that? I'm not a lawyer, but my understanding of dumping is that it's perfectly legal to dump your own games as long as you're not circumventing any protection measures as stated by the DMCA. In general, what this means is that anything up to around the 6th generation of game consoles would be perfectly legal to make backups of. Anything beyond that is a grey area. But for this discussion, let's just assume that all ROMs can be dumped by individuals who own originals, and it's perfectly legal to do that. So, if it's okay to download and use an emulator and dump your own games, then what's the problem? Preservation lives on. After all, I'm making a legal backup of my games. The problem is, have you ever tried to dump a NES, Super NES, Genesis, or old game cartridge? It's not an easy thing to do. You need some type of dumping hardware like this thing here.
I've never even seen this before.
This is the Retro 2. It can dump SNES and Genesis ROMs, and I even have an adapter for N64 and Game Boy. The problem is, these aren't readily available. They're almost never in stock when you need one. And have you tried dumping NES game cartridges? I've tried a few different dumpers, and all of them are terrible. The best option is to use a dumping tool with the Analog NT Mini, which isn't made anymore. And back in the old days, way before
I just don't want to have to do any of this shit. Like, I want them to just provide the games for a reasonable fee that you can buy as a one-time purchase and then play the game whenever you want. Like, why this is like we're jumping through all these hoops. It's like the Olympics for the most simple and obvious thing to happen. Like, I don't get it.
Dumping tools, disc and cartridge copiers were all the rage. Now, I've used disc copiers on the channel before. These devices were also successfully blocked in US courts as illegal. Now, of course, it was still very possible to import them via Hong Kong electronic stores such as Lexang, but you start to see the frustration. Disc-based games like the Dreamcast, OG Xbox, and GameCube aren't really much better either. You can use either a specific drive with a hacked firmware, or you can use a hacked console. It shouldn't be this complicated to make backups of your own games, and yet it is.
It used to not be like this, by the way. Like, Red Alert 1, you could just copy one-to-one. There was, like, no restriction or no problem at all. Don't ask me how I know that.
Everything up to Nintendo. After all, they did successfully launch the Virtual Console on the Wii, Wii U, and recently the NSO service on the Nintendo Switch. Not only this, they have a very long history of providing backward compatibility options for hardware going as far back as the Game Boy Color. Nintendo can't be trusted. The Virtual Console on the Wii was a very good service they provided.
This is Super Mario for Game Boy, I think.
There was a total of 427 Virtual Console titles available on the service in North America. And in 2019, the Wii U online service was shut down. So let's move over to the Wii U. Many games had to be ported to the Wii U Virtual Console, and there's a total of 318 titles available in North America. It's a pretty significant reduction. And of course, as we know, just
I also think the pricing is way too high. Like, asking that much money for like an old game like that, it's just not congruent with what the industry and the customer expectations are. It's just too much money.
The Wii U store was also closed. But of course, now we come to the Nintendo Switch Online service, which is the service-based Netflix-style model Nintendo has always wanted to provide. And the smart money suggests that Nintendo will transfer over the NSO with your Nintendo account to future Nintendo hardware, including the Switch 2. This, of course, is a good move. As of the making of this video, there's only a paltry 275 titles available on the NSO service. And we only get a very small drip feed of new games every single month. I remember back in the days of the Wii Virtual Console, we were getting games every single week.
By the way, little aside, in the year 1990, this game was Elden Ring. I don't think I can overstate how big this game was and how much of like a crazy, like, fucking paradigm shift this game was. This was nuts.
The Nintendo Switch has sold over 155 million units, but Nintendo is all but doing the absolute minimum to offer retro games to their customers. The number of old classic games Nintendo is providing on their hardware services is shrinking with every single generation. And you've probably noticed that every single month people are asking for games like Chrono Trigger or Secret of Evermore on the service. How many years will people need to wait before they show up?
Yeah, exactly.
If ever? There's no guarantee that anything will ever appear on the NSO. As someone who does work on commercial emulation projects, I can tell you categorically that many publishers see value in partnering with companies like Limited Run or Digital Eclipse to help bring back their back catalog. The reality is, Nintendo Switch
Online, it just adds value to the customer. It's not even a question.
Is just another revenue stream for Nintendo's bottom line. The emulation quality, while decent enough, doesn't hold a candle to community-developed efforts that run on their own hardware. The emulators that the homebrew community built on the Wii, Wii U, 3DS, and the Nintendo Switch are far superior to anything that Nintendo has ever provided.
Again, service issue. Why is that? It should not be like that. There's no reason it should be like this.
The community who downloads ROMs shouldn't all be labeled as filthy pirates who deserve.
You know, I never played Super Metroid.
It's the resellers who attempt to profit from them that really should be targeted. If Nintendo really cared about ROMs, they'd be taking down every single seller on Amazon who's selling knockoff handhelds with 10,000 games on them. I can literally buy one right now and get it delivered tomorrow. And if it wasn't for ROMs, fan translations would not exist. And this is something that people pour their hearts and souls into to provide localization efforts to games that were never released in that particular country. But it doesn't even stop there. Things like full color translations, widescreen mods, ROM
Can you guys imagine how much bigger Nintendo would be here in America if they actually had a guy that really understood the like Western culture? Dude, it would be bigger than like Xbox and PlayStation put together times like 5. Doug I don't know, man. Reggie? I mean, I liked Reggie. I thought Reggie was cool, but like I don't really know what he did.
Built out of completely new games, updating and adding quality of life features, even building demakes of games.
Good PR,
Every time a remaster is announced, people ask what quality of life features.
Yeah, this is amazing. The quality on this is great.
If ROMs didn't exist, that would be a big fat zero.
Is that a ROM?
I'll fill you in on a secret. Commercial retro game collections I've been involved with, we frequently work with ROM hacking experts in the community. Everyone does who works on retro collections. Experts in reverse engineering, ROM hacking, and localization efforts are essential to bringing back old games to modern times.
Yep.
The FPGA community just saw the release of the N64 Mysticore, an incredible piece of work that will surely benefit N64 hardware preservation, but it still requires ROMs to play. It's easy to say that the internet is vast and ROMs will never be eradicated, but the reality is, every high-profile ROM site that's shut down, it's a blow to preservation. We can't trust Nintendo or the ESA to be in charge of preservation efforts. They've failed in doing so time and time again. Their motives aren't to preserve, rather to control. They make it clear that—
He makes a good point there. He makes a really good point. Yeah, they're not trying to preserve the games. They're just trying to control what people are doing. Absolutely.
they will go after any ROM site that gets in their crosshairs.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for Vim's Lair, this was because of moronic TikTokers who were playing Pokemon on their iPhones via the Delta emulator, thinking that it was cool, which clearly got the attention of the ESA. If Nintendo was serious about their history, they'd provide their entire library of ROMs on a service.
Yep.
This could be either a rental or a purchase and run on any legal emulator on your PC. I know it sounds
Or it could, imagine this, run on the fucking Switch. Oh, what?
Crazy, but think about it. If Nintendo set up their own Vim's Lair, which had checks and balances, people would buy those ROMs.
How are they not doing? I don't understand. How are they not doing this?
Sites like Vim's Lair,
I don't get it.
fan translations, and ROM hacks should not be punished. These talented people are what the industry needs.
It's just like none of this makes any sense to me.
Many ROM hackers and modders got their start in the industry from their hobbyist work, and it would be a shame to see all that disappear. But these are just one man's thoughts and opinions.
I don't understand it at all.
This topic is polarizing for many of you. So if you did make it to the end of this episode, I do thank you for listening. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I understand that a lot of people don't like emulation and ROMs, and a lot of people obviously do. But I definitely want to hear what you guys have to say in the comments below. But we are going to leave it here for today's episode. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked it, please don't forget to leave me a thumbs up, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. Bye for now.
What a good fucking video. It's crazy how, like, everybody knows what Nintendo has to do except for Nintendo. Like, everybody on the internet is collectively... everybody understands this except them. It's insane. There's the video, by the way. Like, this guy, he makes a lot of really good retro gaming videos. I've watched them. Probably like I probably watched like 20 of his videos. Ryan, maybe not that many, but like I've watched a lot of them. I agree with everything he's saying. I think Nintendo's erasing, and the thing is, they're erasing their own history. It's like you have to keep in mind that everybody who's like ROMing your game and everything, they're doing that because they love your game. They want to play your game. And like I can't speak for anybody other than myself, but like I want to support Nintendo. I want to be a Nintendo simp. But they make it so hard. Why are you doing this? I don't get it. Yeah, like just let me buy the game. Let me just play the game. Like, why can't you just have an adapter that you can plug into you can plug into a PC. It's a USB adapter, and you can just plug every controller into it. Nintendo could sell that. Guaranteed they could make this. Why aren't they doing it? I don't understand. None of this makes sense. Nintendo has more nostalgia than like anything. And you're just not seeing it happen. It's so disappointing. Yeah, give the video a like. Maybe one day they'll come to their senses. I don't know if it's ever going to happen, but I hope that it will. To mention a second life given to games through ROMs. Yeah, exactly. The only thing that makes sense is that they want us to buy the new console and games, which are more expensive. Yeah, but people are going to do that too. Like, it's not like, dude, it's not like if we buy the old games, we're not going to buy the new ones. We're going to buy both of them. Like, what do you mean? That's the way it's always been. It's just silly, man. They hold decent games hostage. Well, they're holding their own stuff hostage. They're hurting themselves. What might happen for Pokemon? I'm sure there's licensing issues with some of them, but that's certainly not the obligation, or that's certainly not the norm. They have tons of retro games on the Switch, but they're just overpriced. Yeah, what are you doing? Like, why? Like, what's the purpose in this? Nintendo hurt itself in its confusion. That's a fucking fact, man. I got to go do the podcast and do some other stuff. As I said, today was going to be a shorter stream today. So tomorrow I'm going to be on. We might look at some of this stuff tomorrow for Phase 4 of Season of Discovery. We also we're going to play that game Kill Knight tomorrow. That was like a game, we saw it on an expo, and so we're going to try that out tomorrow. I got a sponsor for it, and try that out. I'm kind of excited. I hope it's going to be good. So yeah, that's going to be about it, guys. Thanks a lot for watching. Really appreciate it. I'll be back on tomorrow, and shit, I'll see you guys then. All right, boys. Peace. See ya.